trip to South America would be complete without a visit to Argentina, the second largest country in South America and eighth largest in the world. We're headed for Argentina's vibrant capital city, Buenos Aires. Our February 2023 trip was sponsored by Vantage Travel and focused on the wines and cultures of the region. But wait, what's going on here? A street demonstration? This wasn't the culture we came to see. On the other hand, the politics of Argentina have been volatile throughout the country's history. Not to worry, though. This protest march on February 24th was staged by Ukrainian activists, marking the one-year anniversary of the hated Russian invasion. It turns out Argentina is home to several 100,000 Ukrainians. The citizens you see here are staging a symbolic protest that is orderly and well organized. Now it's time for us to take to the streets ourselves and do a little sightseeing. Our charming local guide, Valerie, gives us background and perspective as we drive along the Avenida 9 de Julio, named for the country's Day of Independence, the 9th of July. We marvel at the wonderful mix of landmarks and monuments along the way, like this imposing obelisk, historic 19th century buildings, and of course, modern commercial buildings with their flashy digital advertising. Buenos Aires has been called the Paris of South America, and this aerial view of the Grand Avenida shows you why. You're looking at the widest boulevard in the world, with 5 lanes of traffic running in each direction, a few bus lanes thrown in, and feeder streets on either side. Beautifully landscaped medians separate the various flows of traffic. Want to cross the street? I hope you're not in a hurry. You'll probably have to wait through about 3 lights to cover the distance, equal to that of a full city block. Here, I'll show you. While you're crossing, let me just mention that while plans for the Grand Avenida were formulated in 1888, the vision wasn't fully realized until the 1980s, nearly 100 years later. Clearances required for the right-of-ways delayed the completion. Now we're on our way to the city's center to visit the Plaza de Mayo. This historic square is named for the Argentine Revolution that began in May of 1810 and overthrew Spanish rule. In the center is a pyramid-shaped monument, the city's oldest, with a statue on top representing liberty. Surrounding the Plaza de Mayo are several notable buildings. You may recognize Casa Rosada, the distinctive pink presidential palace from which Evita Peron, more popularly known as Evita, addressed the multitudes in the late 1940s. Picture her on this balcony. Casa Rosada continues to serve as the office of the president, a pink house instead of a white house. An earlier seat of government is just around the corner. The Cabildo of Buenos Aires was the meeting place of the town council during the colonial era. Today, it's a museum. Also overlooking the Plaza de Mayo is the Metropolitan Cathedral. It's the mother church of the Archdiocese of Buenos Aires, where a humble man named Jorge Mario Bergoglio served the city as archbishop, and later the nation as cardinal, before being elected pope in 2013 and choosing the name Francis. As a young man growing up in Buenos Aires, Pope Francis worked as a bouncer, a janitor, and a laboratory technician before becoming a priest. He was the first Jesuit to be chosen as pope, and was the first pope to come from the Americas. This was his church. It's been rebuilt several times since its founding in the 16th century. Today, despite its 19th century neoclassical facade without any towers, the interior reflects the 18th century, with Renaissance and Baroque-style statues, altarpieces, and decor. Just off the right aisle, and well guarded, are the remains of General José de San Martín, who led the May 1810 revolution that freed Argentina from Spain. The general's black sarcophagus is also guarded by statues of 3 life-size female figures, who represent not only Argentina, but Chile and Peru, 2 other regions of South America which the general is credited with liberating. He has certainly found a most impressive resting place, surrounded by ladies. As we set out to see a few local neighborhoods, or barrios as they are called, we pass school children practicing football, we would call it soccer, in the shadow of a major stadium. We are in La Boca, home of the Boca Juniors, one of the 2 largest football teams in Argentina. The stadium is known for its murals, such as this one that depicts notable personalities as musicians. Of course, Lionel Messi is the world's most notable player today, having led Argentina to victory in the 2022 FIFA World Cup. Reports are that he's joining Inter Miami CF and will soon move to Fort Lauderdale. La Boca is more than football. It's a splash of color that has turned a drab working-class neighborhood into a tourist magnet. See for yourself as you prowl La Boca's main alleyway, Caminito, with its street vendors and artists, taverns, shops, and life-sized costumed characters. You will recognize a few. Enjoy. Now we move from the funky to the formal. You would expect a city of more than 15 million to have tall commercial buildings, and Buenos Aires does not disappoint. We found clusters of high-rises throughout the city, especially around the port areas. But our eyes were drawn to a most unusual bridge, which evokes images of the tango with its dramatic swoops and dips. Or do you see a lady's high-heeled shoe? The Puente de la Mujer, or Women's Bridge as it's called, is for pedestrians only and can be swiveled to allow ships to pass. Here's another modern design project that was created to dramatize the daily opening and closing of a flower, to symbolize that hope is reborn every day. The problem is, its hydraulics aren't currently working, so hope appears to be on hold. This 18-ton, 65-foot high sculpture, called Floralis Generica, was created by architect Eduardo Catalano. We can only hope that he gets it working again. I'll stop talking for a while now and let pictures show you some of the other sights we saw on our drives through Buenos Aires. Our lunch stop at Grand Café Tortoni wasn't devoted solely to eating. We consumed a bit of history as well. This French-inspired coffee shop is the oldest in the country and has been a favorite gathering place for artists, writers, and parliament members since 1858. Its marble-topped bar offered more than just coffee. And in the back, we found the Tortoni story preserved as a museum under a richly ornamental skylight. Who should we meet next but Argentina's most famous woman, Evita Peron, shown here in an animated pose as if reaching out to the people who adored her. But Evita, as she was affectionately known, is not buried here. The former actress, political activist, and immensely popular but controversial First Lady is buried nearby in La Recoleta Cemetery. Surely, we thought, Evita merits one of the larger and more beautiful crypts in this 14-acre city of showplace tombs. But that's not what we found. As we wandered among the competing statues, Greek temples, and ornate mini-cathedrals holding the remains of former presidents, military commanders, notable writers, and artists, we saw no impressive mausoleum or statue for Argentina's most globally well-known champion of women's and workers' rights. Instead, we came to a rather ordinary-looking crypt bearing the family name Duarte, Evita Peron's maiden name, and displaying a couple of modest plaques indicating that this was indeed her final resting place. Evita had died of ovarian cancer in 1952. She was only 33. The public outpouring was overwhelming, as our guide Valerie explains.
So, when she died, we can compare her funeral with Lady Diana's funeral. Over 2 million people that were there saying the last farewell, and there were no flowers left in Argentina and all the border countries for 2 weeks.
Wow.
It was.
The story of how Evita came to be buried in her family's crypt is a 20-year saga. Her remains had been hidden by the military government that ousted her husband Juan Perón as president in 1955. But when her body was eventually found in Europe and returned to Argentina, she was buried in her family's crypt in 1975, probably for purposes of security. Her casket's located 16 feet underground. La Recoleta Cemetery has been accumulating residents and their stories since 1822. An Argentine puppeteer entertains us on the street. By contrast, we find one of the world's top opera houses. After all, Argentina is a country of mostly Spanish and Italian descent. It's no wonder that the nation would build a magnificent performance venue for the finest European music. We were privileged to tour the famed Teatro Colon, which is located in the heart of Buenos Aires on the wide 9th of July Avenue. Over the course of more than 100 years, the world's leading opera, music, ballet, and even pop artists have appeared on this stage. Beyond the beauty of the building itself, it's the sound quality that's established Teatro Colon's top-tier reputation. A worldwide survey of leading opera and orchestra conductors concluded that Teatro Colon offers the very best acoustics for opera and the second best for concerts in the world. Enjoy admiring the result, complete with statues, stained glass windows and skylights, fancy columns and molding, and marble everywhere you look throughout the lobby and adjoining public rooms. It's a feast for the eyes. Our tour took us into the theater itself, where we had a view of the stage from posh balcony box seats. Pretty fancy. I counted 6 balcony levels. The auditorium has about 1,500 seats, with standing room for another 1,000. The closest thing to a performance we got to observe was the lighting crew hanging the instruments on bars that formed the electrical grid that would be hoisted into the fly space above the stage. We were seeing just one part of the detailed behind-the-scenes preparation it takes to mount any type of performance in a theater like Teatro Colon. Too bad we couldn't stick around to see the finished result. No ordinary lunch for us. Pulperia Quilapan brings rural traditions and cuisine into the big city. This combination cafe, bar, grocery store, museum, and craft shop is located in the oldest house in the historic San Telmo barrio. We dined on generous plates of cheese and grilled meat appetizers called picadas and chorizo sausage sandwiches called choripans. We poured local artisanal wines from cute penguin jugs, a trademark of Mendoza's Vino Ping winery. And we people-watched. What's with the bars, I wondered? Even the cafe bar itself was protected by bars. Oh well, mysteries remained as we left to explore the weekly antique market of La Feria de San Telmo. Souvenirs, anyone? Now it's tango time in San Telmo, starting with a group lesson and ending with a dinner and tango show at El Viejo Almacén. Here's a taste of Argentina's sacred tradition. We are leaving Buenos Aires now and heading out of town to the grasslands or pampas, where there are cattle ranches or estancias. Here we'll find polo, which has been called the sport of kings, and we're about to find out why. There are no kings in Argentina, but there are wealthy families and individuals who can afford to raise horses to compete in a sport that Argentina dominates. The country's only loss in international competition has been to the United States in 1932. Our polo class was in session on a beautiful February day with Ezekiel as our instructor. He explained that a match consists of anywhere from 6 to 8 7-minute rounds called chocas. We will see a demonstration with 3 players on each team, but normally there are 4. The idea is to drive a plastic ball into the other team's goal. Ezekiel had us take turns being the umpire and dropping the ball to start each choca.
There is an umpire. Today you will help me being an umpire.
Oh,
and
wow.
He grabbed the ball. The umpire in India is on a horse, and he will throw the ball between the 2 teams and everyone can get it. It's like ice hockey or in basket when they jump. But the idea is that the whole team is being involved.
No, don't run.
¿Cómo andan? ¿Todo bien? Bueno.
I was honored to take my turn as umpire. As I stood next to a polo pony, I was amazed at how short it was. It's not a pony at all, but a full-grown horse. About 5 feet high is typical, making it possible for the rider's stick to reach the ground. Very practical. The game of polo and its specially bred ponies originated in Persia spread to India and China, then to England, where it was widely popularized throughout the world. As we watch a bit of the action, green shirts against black shirts, marvel at the horsemanship on display. Training the ponies begins at age 3 and can take up to 2 years. But training a rider or skilled gaucho can take even longer. Imagine controlling your horse at intense speed while hitting a ball with precision. A serious competitor will own several ponies to be able to switch to a fresh one for each chukka. Plus, employ a staff of groomsmen to care for them. Like thoroughbred racing in the United States, polo is a luxury hobby for the elite.
They can block they stick each other.
After experiencing the excitement of polo, we settled down for a generous chunk of beef, straight from the parrilla or grill, washed down with a glass of Malbec, Argentina's signature wine. A worthy toast to the wines and cultures of Argentina.